3, parentheses 3, close parentheses, for any period falling within the
The Bureau does not do that. We do not get involved until a crime is committed and has risen to the level of our radar. There were actual crimes. Now you know everything, is that it? Now you're a Superman with X-ray vision?
No, but I think I should be allowed a single day to
Predict if someone might commit a crime? Who are you, the fucking Thot police?
And I'm afraid, at this point, for you viewers in the UK, once again, you're going to have to get something different because the rest of the world is going to see a piece about Theresa May's provisional Brexit deal. But in that piece, there's going to be some parliamentary footage. And as we've discussed before on this show, it's against the law for a comedy programme to do that in the UK, which is, and this is true, fucking stupid. Now,
what's going on is really priceless because the only reason that they're having to post this, the only reason that they had to make it, was because of the weird censorious law in the UK that you can't show video of what's going on in Parliament. So, because of their already very creepy laws, they had to make this segment to show while they're showing the actual content to America. Okay, so we're getting double propaganda. It's because you're not allowed to see anything about the government that they had to make this thing about Brexit.
Bill, you may remember last time we ran into this exact same problem. We replaced the segment with Gilbert Gottfried reading 3-star Yelp reviews for restaurants in Boise, Idaho. Well, don't worry, I am not going to do that to you again. Because this time, Gilbert is going to be reading to you from Theresa May's 585-page provisional agreement with the EU.
So what they're reading, I guess, is the provisional agreement with the EU, which is not Brexit.
Article 130, specific arrangements relating to fishing opportunities as regards the fixing of fishing opportunities within the meaning of Article 43.
I love how the joke with this is like Gilbert Gottfried is reading the super boring agreement with the EU. So the content is boring and his voice, the joke is his voice is annoying. So it's just such a stupid, kind of non-PC joke for them to be making. And it's also pretty lazy, actually. Gilbert Gottfried is awesome.
You know what? This was a bad idea. Britain doesn't deserve this. I didn't realise it was going to be this bad when I originally made the decision to do this. But if we learned one thing from Brexit, it's that an entirely reversible decision cannot actually be reversed. So, Gilbert, please continue.
I didn't realise it was going to be this bad when we decided to do this. So his whole point is, even though it had good intentions, it's turned out to be bad, so why don't we just reverse the decision? Oh, that's so clever. It's like not really that cute and funny when you think about the fact that what he's joking about is like subverting the will and the sovereignty of the people in a democracy, so I guess it's actually kind of fucked up. Yeah, sadly you can't undo, you can't call a redo, you can't call a do-over on democracy.
12. You know what? Let's let smarter heads prevail here. Let's have a people's vote and have our audience choose between listening to Gilbert read this and listening to him read something a little bit more fun, like Bigfoot erotica. So which is it to be? The EU draft treaty? Or the short work of Bigfoot erotica, Yeti Set Go? I thought so.
Oh, well, if the tyrannical majority wants to, subvert the vote that's already been held, then I thought so.
Sadly, there cannot be a people's vote on this, so Gilbert, please continue with Article 12.
Sadly there cannot be a people's vote on this. What does he think the first one was? Doesn't that really reveal a lot about what he thinks the first one was? Sadly, there can't be a people's vote on this. Okay, so who was it that voted the first time? Not the people, according to John Oliver.
I'm sorry, I can't do this. My people in England are suffering enough. Gilbert, tell them about the Bigfoot fucking.
Anticipation. This is going to be the Loch Ness Monster all over again.
Okay, Gilbert, that's time. Change the law, UK, or you'll get chapter fucking 2 next time.
I just think it's really disturbing how you're supposed to laugh and clap and, like, you know, stupid, silly, brain dead and while they talk about, you know, undermining, while they talk about something that's so eerie that it seems like it could have been from a sci-fi dystopia. Like, you don't imagine that in this world, in our life, we're gonna watch people laugh as our rights are taken away, as our votes are disrespected. I think it really goes to show that a lot of people don't consider the British people to have any sovereignty about anything. You know, in America with the migrant crisis and with the caravan we've been talking about, like, do the American people have the sovereignty to decide who comes in their country? The question for Brexit is, do the British people have the sovereignty to decide that they don't want to be part of a globalist world government, the EU? And they held a vote, and the globalists didn't get the outcome that they wanted, so they want to undo that vote, and they want to pretend like the people who did that vote didn't understand what they were voting on, and they want to portray it as not a people's vote, right? Like, it's not a people's vote. It was something else. It was a lie. The election of Donald Trump wasn't the people's vote. He didn't win the popular vote, so it's not legitimate. Brexit isn't legitimate. You don't have the right to say that. You don't have the right to decide what you want. That's what's really creepy about this. That's what really should freak everybody out, that happens on late night in front of everyone, that we all think it's normal and we all just don't even notice what's going on right in front of us. That's what should really send a chill down your spine. I was watching this earlier, and he's talking about, like, there was some judge, I think in, like, Texas or something, that claimed that Obamacare is now unconstitutional because ever since they repealed, like, one part of it, that it's unconstitutional. And Trump, like, tweeted that it was a good thing for America, but he explains why it's not a good thing for America, and I think this is, like, really creepy. Like, it has an ominous ring of truth. Because it's just like that. Like, you're like, oh shit.
There's no bipartisan plan on the table. Democrats are immediately going to say that if people lose their quote-unquote Obamacare coverage, if they lose their Medicaid coverage via Obamacare, if all the rates go up because a bunch of people withdraw from the individual mandate on the basis of Obamacare disappearing, then they're going to say, oh look, the healthcare system has failed, let's nationalize healthcare. This was always the plan. From day one, this was the plan. Go back and listen to things that I said back in 2012, 2013, 2010 when they were passing this. This was always a step-by-step design for failure program so the Democrats could claim that when prices went up, it's because the market was not regulated enough.
That's what they always do.
Come from. The
That's
answer
what they
is
do with
always more
everything.
cowbell. If regulation fails, the answer is always more regulation. Always. And so if Obamacare fails, even though they say it was going to cure the system, or Obama in 2010, this is going to make things more affordable. You like your doctor? You have to keep your doctor. You like your medicine? You have to keep your medicine. You like your insurance? You have to keep your insurance. None of it was true. None of it was true. But when it failed, the plan was for him to say, well, didn't see that one come. Guess we got to nationalize healthcare now. And that was always the plan for Democrats. It's why they are now pushing single-payer healthcare. It's why they've embraced the full Bernie Sanders strategy when it comes to healthcare. This is why Chuck Schumer is gleeful about this decision. Chuck Schumer is happy about the decision. Why? Because now he gets to try and force Republicans to expand government to cover all the gaps left by the crappy Obamacare system that was put in place back in 2010. Here is Schumer. You can hear the glee in his voice.
We're going to fight this tooth and nail. And the first thing we're going to do when we get back there in the Senate is put a vote on the floor urging an intervention in the case.
Literal
The
pop
judge,
gum.
a lot of this depends on congressional intent, and if a majority of the House and a majority of the Senate say that this case should be overturned, it'll have a tremendous effect on the appeal.
Okay, so what he's saying is that basically he's going to get all of these Democrats and Republicans to stand up for Obamacare. He wants people on the record standing against this judge's decision. Why? Because if he can get people on the record standing in favor of the judge's decision, and then it turns out that a bunch of people, quote unquote, lose their health care, or their health care costs go up, then he can blame Republicans for this. It's fascinating. When you look at Americans' opinions on health care, basically Americans are always in favor of the status quo. Before Obamacare, they hated Obamacare. Now that Obamacare's in place, whenever there are major changes made to Obamacare, people say they don't want it. People just want to be left alone. If this is the basic
that's
rule
basically-
of American life, people mostly
that's
want to be
basically
left
true
alone.
for everything.
And that means that once the status quo has changed, they don't actually want the status quo changed more. The problem is that President Obama and the Democrats put America on a path towards single-payer health care, and Republicans, by accepting the premises of all of the Democratic arguments that we have to create a government-structured system where people with pre-existing conditions are covered, for example. By doing all of that, what they have actually done is placed us on the same pathway. Because now Republicans are arguing about how we get there. They're not arguing about what the end goal is. When it comes to the role of government in healthcare, the role of government in healthcare should be minimal. It should not be high levels of regulation. It should not be that we are going to, quote unquote, provide healthcare to the ends of the earth for everyone, because no one can do that. There's so many